It started as a normal Monday morning. The sun peeked through the blinds, casting soft rays across our bedroom as I got ready for work. Olivia, my wife of 7 years, was standing by the mirror, meticulously applying her makeup. She always took her appearance seriously, but today there was something different. She had a glow, not the kind that comes from a good night's sleep or a successful work project, but something deeper, more alive. It was unsettling. I sipped my coffee, leaning against the doorframe as I watched her. "Big meeting today?" I asked casually. She glanced at me through the mirror, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Yeah, something like that." Her response was vague, and I felt the first twinge of suspicion. Over the past few months, Olivia's behavior had been different. Late nights at the office, sudden weekend trips for work, and a newfound obsession with her phone. I wanted to believe it was just the demands of her job, but the pit in my stomach told me otherwise. As she grabbed her purse and headed toward the door, she turned to me. "Don't wait up for dinner. I'll probably be working late." I nodded, forcing a smile. "Sure. Good luck with the meeting." She left without a backward glance, and the house fell silent. I stood there for a moment, staring at the door, a nagging feeling growing in my chest. Something wasn't right, and I needed to know what it was. That evening, I decided to follow my gut. I had never been the jealous or overbearing type, but Olivia's recent behavior left me no choice. She had left her laptop open on the kitchen counter, and I couldn't resist the urge to take a look. My hands trembled as I opened her email account, half hoping to find nothing and half expecting my worst fears to be confirmed. And there it was, a series of messages between Olivia and someone named Daniel. At first glance, they seemed innocent, work-related even. But as I scrolled further, the tone changed. Words like "can't wait to see you" and "last night was amazing" leaped off the screen. My chest tightened as the reality of her betrayal sank in. I closed the laptop, my mind racing. Confronting her immediately felt rash, but pretending everything was fine was unbearable. I needed to know more before I could decide my next move. The next day, I hired a private investigator. It felt like something out of a bad TV drama, but I needed concrete answers. I couldn't rely on assumptions or half-truths. The investigator promised to provide details within a week, and those 7 days felt like an eternity. During that time, I watched Olivia more closely than ever. Her excuses grew flimsier, her laughter more hollow. She started dressing up more often, even for mundane errands, and her phone became an extension of her hand. Every time it buzzed, she glanced at it with a secretive smile before tucking it away. When the investigator finally delivered his report, it was worse than I had imagined. Photos, timestamps, and locations painted a clear picture of her double life. Olivia wasn't working late. She was meeting Daniel at a hotel downtown. They had been seeing each other for months, sharing moments and intimacy that should have been ours. I stared at the evidence, my heart breaking with every page. How had it come to this? Was it something I had done or failed to do? The questions swirled in my mind, but there were no answers, only pain. That night, Olivia came home later than usual. She walked in with a lightness in her step, humming softly as she set her purse down. "Hey," she said, flashing me a smile. "Sorry I'm late. Work's been crazy." I looked at her, the words burning on the tip of my tongue, but I held back. "It's fine," I said, forcing a calm I didn't feel. Over dinner, she chatted about her day, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside me. I nodded at all the right moments, my appetite non-existent. That night, as she slept peacefully beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. The evidence was undeniable, but confronting her felt daunting. I didn't want to destroy our marriage, but I couldn't live with the lies either. The confrontation came 2 days later. I had rehearsed what I wanted to say, but when the moment arrived, the words felt heavy. "Olivia," I said as she sat across from me at the dining table. "We need to talk." She looked up from her plate, her brow furrowing. "What's wrong?" I took a deep breath, sliding the investigator's report across the table. "This." Her face went pale as she opened the folder, her eyes scanning the contents. When she looked back at me, tears were already welling up. "I can explain," she began, but I held up a hand. "Don't," I said, my voice firm. I've seen enough. I just want to know why. She hesitated, her gaze dropping to the table. I don't know, she said finally. It just happened. We've been drifting apart, and Daniel, he made me feel seen. Her words cut deep, but I refused to let her see me break. And what about me? I asked. Did you ever stop to think about how this would affect me? She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. The silence spoke volumes. That night, I packed a bag and left. I didn't know where I was going, but I couldn't stay. The home we had built together felt like a prison. Each room filled with memories, now tainted by her betrayal. I checked into a hotel and spent the next few days in a haze of anger, sadness, and confusion. Friends reached out, offering support, but I wasn't ready to talk. How could I explain what had happened when I barely understood it myself? In the weeks that followed, I began to rebuild my life. I found a small apartment, started therapy, and focused on rediscovering who I was outside of my marriage. Olivia reached out multiple times, begging for forgiveness, promising to change, but the trust we had built over 7 years was gone, shattered beyond repair. One day, she showed up at my door, tears streaming down her face. "Please," she said, "I know I messed up, but I love you. I want to fix this." I looked at her, my heart heavy with a mix of love and resentment. "Olivia," I said softly, "I forgive you, but forgiving you doesn't mean I can forget, and it doesn't mean we can go back to the way things were." She sobbed, her shoulders shaking as she pleaded for another chance. But I knew in my heart that it was over. Sometimes, love isn't enough to mend what's been broken. Looking back, I realized that Olivia's betrayal had taught me a painful but valuable lesson. Trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's nearly impossible to rebuild. But more importantly, I learned the value of self-respect. Walking away wasn't easy, but it was the right choice for me. As I stood in my new apartment, the sunlight streaming through the windows, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was mine to walk, and that was enough. The months turned into a year, and the wounds Olivia had left began to heal. I threw myself into my career, taking on projects that reignited my passion. I started traveling, exploring places I had always dreamed of visiting. Along the way, I met people who reminded me of the kindness and joy the world still had to offer. One day, while walking through a park in Chicago, I saw a family playing together. The laughter of the children and the warmth of their parents' smiles stirred something in me. It wasn't sadness or regret, but hope. Hope that one day I might build something new, a life untainted by betrayal, a life filled with trust and love. And for the first time in years, I felt ready to open my heart again.